Hi.
Hi, are you ready for me, Kayla?
Hi,
One second.
everybody.
Yeah, we are. Thank you. Here comes Julie. She's going to put us in the spirit of Pesach.
Ilu hotzi hotzi anu mi mitzrayim hotzi anu mi mitzrayim dayenu 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 Die, die, inu, die, die, inu, die, inu. Ilu natan, natan lanu, eta Shabbat, natan lanu, eta Shabbat, die, inu, die, inu, die, inu, die, Ilu natan lanu, eta Torah, natan lanu, eta Torah, dayenu, 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 dayenu.
That was great. We have 2 more minutes. Is there any other people who have some suggestions of songs besides Eliyahu Hanavi? Because that will be for later. We're going to save that one. You can suggest another song.
Oh, goodness. I hope I know it.
Or you could suggest one. How about you?
You know what? Hine Matov, just because we're all together. Can we do that?
Love it.
Sure.
Love it.
Okay, hang on one sec. Just putting this here, and we've got. Hine Matov Manayim, Shabbat Achim Gam Yachad. Hine Matov Manayim, Shabbat Achim Gam Yachad. Shabbat Achim Gam Yachad. Shabbat Achim Gam Yachad. Shabbat Achim Gam Yachad. Shabbat Achim Gam Yachad.
Do you know the Israeli version?
Shabbat Achim Gam Yachad. Hine Matov Manayim. Shabbat Achim Gam Yachad. Hine Matov, Hine Matov. Ya la 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 la. Hine Matov, Hine
Maybe you
Matov.
can join.
La 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 la. Yeah, it was
Madal, we don't see you because the window is behind you. The light is behind you.
No, it's not. Wait a minute, let
You
me
could
try. No, the window's not behind me. Is it
Hmm?
this? Is that better?
No, not Julie. Julie, you're great. You're awesome.
Oh, okay.
Mazal. If you move the opposite way, because I had to do that also to find the right direction where the light hits you. If you're facing the window, then we could see you better. I don't know if the computer is not there, so maybe that's a problem. It's daylight now, daylight savings, so it's daylight later. That's better. That's much better. Much better. Yeah, that's great. Okay. So we're going to start, and we want to welcome everybody who's here to our 24th annual Pre-Pesach gathering. And we are very grateful to Mazal, who has put them together with us every year, initiated them, and very, very special. And program is more powerful when we do Torah, Tefillah, and Tzedakah. And so I'm going to do that. It's Tzedakah for everybody here. If you have a coin, then you're welcome to take a coin, put it in your pushka, or set it aside. That's the tzedakah. The Torah, we're going to be learning all about the holidays and all about our traditions tonight. And the tefillah, we're going to welcome somebody to read a prayer for us. And so let's see, is Gabriella Mellis on?
Yes, I am.
Yes, and I just want to say she's our bride tonight. She's engaged, and we're so excited. And in honor of that, we're welcoming her and honoring her with saying the prayer, Psalm 121. So we're going to see it on the screen, and then Gabrielle, you could read it out loud in English.
Okay, perfect. A song for ascents. I shall raise my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come? My help is from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. He will not allow your foot to falter. Your guardian will not slumber. Behold, the guardian of Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is your guardian. The Lord is your shadow. He is by your right hand. By day the sun will not smite you, nor will the moon at night. The Lord will guard you from all evil. He will guard your soul. The Lord will guard your going out and your coming in from now into eternity.
Great. Thank you. Amen. Amen. May it be for everybody. Thank you. And lots of luck and everything for your preparations. Okay. And now we're going to ask Eileen Schoenfeld to say L'chaim. And L'chaim always goes with a blessing. And we are all going to bless her after she blesses us for good health and speedy recovery. Go ahead.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafen.
L'chaim. L'chaim.
L'chaim, I want to say, is a special word because it has a double meaning. It is a double blessing. It means to life, but it also means for life, for life. And also, if you think about the life here we have, but soon the world to come. For our blessing, we ask that our city of Akron, that our country, that our land of Israel and our world be blessed with healing, particularly COVID healing, with love, with strength, and open hearts. A special blessing to all of you who have joined us tonight. Amen.
Amen. May it be so, from your mouth to God's ears. Do you all know that today is a minor holiday? It's Rosh Chodesh. It's the head of the month. Actually, every first of every Jewish month is a minor holiday. It's Rosh Chodesh. But it's marked by the birth of the new month, the new moon. But this month is the month of Nisan. And in Nisan, it's even more special because the month of Nisan was the month that God gave the Jewish people their first mitzvah for the first time and said, you shall make yourself, look at the moon and make yourself a calendar. You should make yourself a Rosh Chodesh. And it's such an important time because how else will we know when to celebrate all the holidays? And being that it was the first mitzvah that was given to the Jews when they first became a nation, right? Even before they left Egypt, like 2 weeks before they left Egypt, it has an enormous potential for spiritual renewal and seeing our potential, and even though we're in limitations. And Nisan, the month of Nisan, is also called the month of miracles. And it's called the month of Geula, which means redemption. And the redemption, as we all know, we are waiting for the Mashiach to come to bring peace. And our tradition tells us that who's going to herald in the Mashiach? It's going to be Elijah the prophet. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Julie to help us sing along with her the Eliyahu Hanavi song.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Good. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Agiladi, Bimhera v'yamenu, Ya'ava alein, Imashiach ben David, Imashiach ben David, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Agiladi.
Unmute. Okay. So tonight's program, we are celebrating in celebration of a birthday of a great global Jewish leader, a modern day Jewish leader who has single-handedly changed the landscape of Jewish life in every country in the world, wherever there are Jews, the Lubavitcher Rebbe of blessed memory, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, and he was known as the Rebbe. Although the Rebbe was a global Jewish leader, he was like a loving father to Jews around the world. The Rebbe is not just your average rabbi. The Rebbe is an abbreviation. The word Rebbe is an abbreviation of the words Rosh B'nai Yisrael, the leader, the head, actually, of the Jewish people. On Pesach, we talk about Moses, the greatest leader and prophet of all time, who led the Jews out of Egypt and out of slavery with so much love and care for each and every one. It's hard to describe someone like Moses in a nutshell, but the Lubavitcher Rebbe was a Moshe in our generation, a modern day Moshe who had the same love and care for every person. He cares for Jews all in every corner, and therefore he made emissaries go out and start Chabad centers, inspiring Jews in Timbuktu, Honolulu, Alaska, Argentina, Iceland, even Akron, Ohio. The Rebbe is responsible for 5,000 Chabad centers around the globe, bringing Judaism home. And the Rebbe is really the reason that our family came to Akron, Ohio to start Chabad. The Rebbe was and still is a personal mentor of ours, of myself, my family, and we always try to take his message to heart. And one of the things the Rebbe taught or really focused on and encouraged was positivity. He was an agent of positivity in all aspects of life, and he exemplified it. And he inspired all of us to think that way and to know that when you think positive, blessings can really come your way. So here's one of my favorite clips of the Rebbe that I'd like to share with you. And let's watch and learn together and get guidance from the Rebbe himself. So listen up. Okay, we're going to share screen.
Sie sich voll mit Betochen in der Nebesten, mit Tutake, Bederach, Hateve, was mit Afton, Bigia, Kapecho, mit der Gashmitike Evri. Aber hat nicht keine Teiges, warum der Rebester 4 Tonnen mit dem und mit jeder Prat von seinem Leben und seiner Familie.
In 1951, my youngest sister, Amina, she wasn't quite 2 years old. My mother brought boiling water up into the bathroom. She ran downstairs and she came up. Amina was in that boiling water, in that big pail of boiling water. They took her to the sick children's hospital. They said the kidneys may have burned through. The heart may give out from the stress. And the lungs were also compromised. It was Thursday. They said that she's not going to live the day. My father turned to his brother-in-law, Rabbi Chodakov, and asked him to speak to the Rebbe. The Rebbe said, make a Kiddush this Shabbos and things will be all right. Nobody felt like making a Kiddush. It was a very, very strange thing.
Ja, du, die Teile, was wird einmal gebracht im Namen von Baal Shem Tov, und einmal im Namen von dem Magi, und einmal im Namen von dem alten Reben, Adam, alle Meiler, wie das Mimoch, durch was mit Pravet, das Simcha Gdela Lemato, Mimoch, ist das Feld, das Simcha Gdela Lemeiler, und von dort wird das Nimschach, in Inyonim הכי גשמי והכי פשוטים ובלושן וסקלו דעלה ברוכס עם בונה חיו ומזינה רביך.
And they drank and they ate and they danced and they jumped on the tables and they jumped on the chairs. I think one table got broken. The doctors didn't think she would survive Friday. But ultimately, the Rebbe was right. She was able to really recuperate. The doctors couldn't believe what happened. Everybody was amazed.
ביום אחד אני מקבל מכתב מהבית, שאבא קיבל התקפת לב, והוא במצב אנוש. ואני מקבל מכתב כזה, מה אני צריך לחשוב? ומה, כן? אז אני הכנסתי מכתב לרבי, כבר אינני יודע מה לחשוב. אז הרבי לקח את המכתב הזה, עשה קו מתחת למילים האלה, והוא כותב, ולפלא, 3 סימני קריאה ככה, אתה רואה את העוצמה שבזה ככה, ולפלא, שהרי ידוע בכגון דע, ציווי נישואינו רבותינו, טראחט-גוט וזיין-גוט, ואחכה לבשורות טובות. קיבלתי את המכתב הזה, ידעתי שם שאני חי, טוב, המשכתי להגיד תהילים וכן הלאה, זה יום חמישי בלילה.
Schaß der Betochen ist, wie sie darf zu sein, bis in der Neif mal Haschlich, al Hashem Yehovcho. Ewe huye chalkelechot, stell der Eibischter Eiche zu, de Kelim, in welches soll sein und chal sein und herabkommende Broche, begoloi betev hanire והניגלה.
עוברת השבת, ביום ראשון עזרתי אומץ וטלפנתי הביתה. אמא שלי מרימה את הטלפון, שאלתי אותה מה שלום, אבא יצא מכלל סכנה. עברתי את הכביש והלכתי במינכה שם, ואמרתי שהרבי יוצא ממינכה, נו, יראתם שסטויבוס פמיר? אמרתי לו, כן, יצא מכלל סכנה. מתי? אמרתי לו, ביום חמישי בערב. אז הוא שואל אותי, מתי אתה התחלת לחשוב טוב?
Also doch ידוע אפילו von der alte Rebbe in Sefer Tani Kadisha ist Megame, die Linie von Hepech Asimcho, אפילו wenn sie weiß sich ist, hat hat Sibis auf seinen Bedachschmius. Und noch mehr, אפילו wenn weiß sich ist, hat Sibis auf dem Beruchnis. Und noch mehr, אפילו wenn die Sibis einen Tag im Zius auf Peter Semet.
לא היו לנו ילדים כמה שנים, דבר שמאוד מאוד כאב לי. וזה היה עם דיאגנוזה של רופא שטען שאני לעולם לא אוכל, מבחינה ביולוגית, אני לא אוכל ללדת ילדים. אמרתי לבעלי שאני רוצה לנסוע לרבה. אמרתי לרבה שאני רוצה ילדים. בכיתי הרבה. הרבה הסתכל עליי ואומר לי, הייתכן שבחורה שלמדה בבית יעקב תולה תקווה אך ורק ברפואה הקונבנציונלית, הוא עושה לי כך, ואפסה תקווה מן השמיים, ומן הראוי שישבו וילמדו את ספר חובת הלבבות, שער הביטחון, ולא יצטרכו יותר לבכות. והקדוש ברוך הוא יברך אותם בבנים ובנות חסידיים, יראי שמיים, ויזכו לגדלם לתורה, לחופה ולמעשים טובים.
Doch der alte Rebbe bepasst und bei Achlotius, als nicht auch nie von Nazi. Gleich Tomer fällt es einmal etwas rein. Hashem mit mir nur auf Fibel, darf man gleich suchen, meistens, was das mehr Happer sei. Zu Ahinen, Teif, bis zu Simcha Mitis. Beruchni ist, wenn ich falsch wurde, kommt das Ares in Simcha Mitis Bedachschwitz.
God Almighty bless you to God for strength and atmosphere. And to then seem to have more talk. God Almighty can do have more bracha from God Almighty. More talk and so on. And they should be funny, not my lessons.
The most important thing, and I think that's what the Rebbe gave mostly over, is the koyach of positive thinking.
You know, the level, the function, the tailor, was dealing with needed to be talking, and then you say to favorite of lawyers that to have a special shot, especially for the Baptists, a special chapter about needed to be talking.
עכשיו, אנחנו ישבנו ולמדנו, והייתה תקופה שגם נתתי הרצאות לקבוצות על ביטחון בהשם. וכמובן שזה חיזק אותי מאוד, והבכי כבר נגמר, לא הייתי צריכה לבכות, וגם הקדוש ברוך הוא עזר מיד.
ביטחון על פי הלוכה ist, als ביטר בהוויה, der Rebischte wird ממלא sein כל צורך. Ebchas wir schollen dann noch fällt etwas, darf dann noch sagen, ganz so Teva, al Pizzi, mit Teva, sein mit Teva, Semes. Aber das ist nicht eine Wede von Bitochen. Eine Wede von Bitochen kommen, al Pi Haloche ist, als Beter, Bepashtus, der Rebischte wird im Malle sein, Kohl, Zroch.
but the matter lesson that you not need to be talking because you have it to check it.
אז הרב אומר לי, נו, wir sollen doch noch einmal nicht treffen, solche Sachen, das wissen alle mal zu trachten gut.
Okay, can you hear me? So these are some of the lessons and teachings that we live by. And there's a wonderful book called Positivity Bias that's written about this concept from the teachings of the Rebbe. And if anybody is interested, we can get it for you. It's a wonderful book to have on the side of your bed and just pocket size a little bit. Will help us get through your day-to-day life. And it's always good to recharge our batteries on that. Okay, now we're going to go to our violinist, Rivka Miriam. She's going to sing a nigun, and following that, we'll hear about Pesach. It stopped.
Thank you, Rivka Miriam.
Okay. So Mazal, we've been doing this for 24 years, and each year we try to find out what's different this year in honor of Pesach, and how is this year different than all other years? Can you share with us?
Yeah. Ready.
Okay. Can you see us? Okay, perfect.
Good evening, dear friend and guest. Happy to see you all. I missed you. Wishing you all a great renewal as we start this auspicious month of Nisan 2021. This year, the question of how Pesach can support our personal freedom is very relevant. We have lived for a year of many changes and challenges. We still have question and uncertainty. How do we do schooling, meeting, family, community gathering? How we do the Pesach Seder? Even simple activity of going out to the park or restaurant. Who and when will get vaccine? Will it work? When will be able to go back to normal? On Pesach, we have more potential to break through our limitation and challenges. According to Kabbalah and Hasidut, the origin of each Jewish holiday is in the past, but the goal is to apply each holiday lesson to our life today. The lesson of Passover is they left Egypt. They left slavery. And our goal is to go out of our personal Egypt, our personal slavery and limitation, such as uncertainty, worry, unhealthy habits, addiction, anxiety, fear, and anger. How can we go out of our personal slavery today, this year? In every situation, we can acknowledge the challenges, but we have the choice to focus on the positive and move forward. As I reflect on the Exodus, I ask myself, who was the pioneer that led Exodus? Yep, Miriam, Moshe's sister. I love Miriam's story. Even though she lived 3,300 years ago, her spirit, her action, and legacy live forever. Miriam is forever young. Miriam's vision and action are very empowering. Miriam was born into slavery. The slavery became harder with 2 new decrees, which is to kill all new baby boys and assimilate the girls. The women were especially devastated by those decrees. Miriam was the first child in her family. Her parents were separated to prevent having more children. Later, little Miriam convinced her parents to remarry because she knew through prophecy that the leader, Moshe, that they would give birth to the leader, to the Redeemer. Miriam was 6, Aaron, her brother, was 3 when Moshe was born. Because of the danger, when the baby was 3 months old, was put in the Nile River. Miriam washed him and protected him. Imagine how Miriam felt standing there by the Nile. I'm sure Miriam was shaking and scared. Miriam's stress and distress that the Egyptian may find them were high. At the same time, Miriam trusted that she and the baby will be okay. The only question was how and when will help come. Suddenly, the daughter of Paro, Batya, came to the river and heard the baby cry. Batya kindly reached out to him. She knew he was a Jewish baby, but wanted to save and adopt him. Miriam ran to bring the baby's mother, Yocheved, to nurse him. What a divine solution. What a godly intervention. Not only that the baby was safe, but also got cuddled, fed, and cared for by his own mom. Cannot be better than that. As the time passed and Miriam grew older, she saw the slavery of the men building the pyramids. Miriam was very concerned about the women. They were also exhausted and stressed. She felt she could help in several ways: emotionally, self-care and beauty, education, and art therapy, action. Imagine Miriam is here today. And her gifts are: she strengthened and inspired women to connect with each other. She helped them to be optimistic and see better day will come. She inspired them to connect and trust that God is on their side, even when it's concealed and not easy to see. Self-care. Miriam encouraged the women to take care for themselves, even without beauty salon. She guided them to beautify. so they will be attractive to their husband and maintain their marriage. To continue a family and the Jewish nation can grow. Third is education and spiritual mentor. Miriam educated the women on how to raise Jewish families, to keep their tradition, keep the Hebrew name, the Hebrew language, the Jewish dress. Miriam taught that Egypt was a station, but not destination. She deepened their faith that this is only a phase. It is all part of a master plan. It was the labor pains to become a holy and a chosen nation. Am Israel Chai. Miriam was activist. Miriam's excitement was contagious, lady. She created a tambourine workshop. She had many WhatsApp groups for different needs for different women. She helped women to get ready and celebrate, dance at the Exodus. The tambourine helped the women visualize that the slavery will end and they will be free. While Miriam was preparing the women, Moshe and Aaron were dealing with Paro to let the Jews go. Hashem intervened with the 10th plague. After the 10th plague, finally, Paro let the people go. They left Egypt in the middle of the day, on the 15th of Nisan, like the first day of Pesach. But the liberation was not yet completed. 7 days after they left, the Egyptian army chased after them. Now the sea was in front of them, and the Egyptian was behind them. They were terrified. What do we do? Cry, pray, go back? You know, 2 Jews, 3 opinions. There were many opinions there. But Hashem said, move forward. A brave Jew named Nachshon trusted God and walked into the sea. At that moment, the most dramatic miracle happened. The water split and stood like a wall on both sides, allowing the Jews to pass through safely. This miracle occurred on the 7th day of Exodus. Ladies, can you imagine the joy, the excitement that they felt? Freedom became reality. Unreal. Moshe and the men composed a song to thank after crossing the sea. Miriam and the women composed their own song. They sang, they danced with more an intense joy and gratitude as they used their handmade tambourine that they prepared. Dear friends, this will happen to us too. We were promised Geula is here, redemption is here. Let's be prepared, let's be ready. So the takeaway from Miriam is all of us, all Jewish women have the DNA of Miriam, the genes, her genes. We can access her faith, her positive attitude in our daily life despite all. Miriam's name can be a mantra for us. The first part of her name is Mar, like maror, means bitterness. The second part is Yam, means sea, water, where the miracle of Exodus happened. We can embrace Miriam's ability to live with challenge of today while maintaining patience and trust for better days, better futures. You may ask, how can we enhance our faith? That's a great Pesach question. Firstly, by eating matzah on Pesach is the one main mitzvah of Pesach, and this will enhance faith. Because when the Jews left Egypt with matzah dough on their back, that was food of faith. They left Egypt quickly, trusting that Hashem, God, will show them the way and things will be okay, where to sleep, where to be, how long, etc. Secondly, is to learn and understand emunah, faith, and how it applies in our own lives, in our own relationship with God. Sometimes it's not so revealed to us. We do not understand why this pandemic, obviously. People got sick, lost life, job, stability, and we would like to send our prayer and our wishes for speed recovery and the better well-being and a big help for the entire world, for the Holy Land of Israel and everyone. We can still find opportunity in our situation. Just like this past year, we saw many opportunity for the positive. Many families connected with relatives from around the country and maybe the globe via Zoom. We realized what are the most important things in our life: family, friend, and the use of the time. Because we Zoomed and more people had opportunity to study, to learn in a greater scale, work remotely, we accomplish more and we save lots of time that we can use it for the good. There were many acts of kindness and goodness done in this year. Let's continue those opportunities that enhance our lifestyle, relationship, and freedom. Let's continue those opportunities that enhance our lifestyle, relationship, and freedom. Please share on a chat one thing that you have achieved this year so we can learn from each other. I would like to wish you all a month and Pesach full of renewal and a happy and kosher Passover.
Amen. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, if anybody looks in, Robin, if you see anybody in the chat saying anything, then we will share it. And maybe in the meantime, while given the opportunity to do that, Ellen Friedman could say the Miriam prayer. We'll honor her with the Miriam prayer, followed by Miriam, who will end up with the violin. But unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. Ellen, can you hear? Unmute yourself, Ellen. We can't hear you. We can't hear you. Can you take it off the screen because she's reading it, I think. Yeah, because she doesn't see that it's mute. If you take it off, maybe.
Ellen, can you talk so we can see if we can hear you? We're not hearing you. It looks like you're not muted, but we still can't hear you.
Not sure why.
Is your volume up of your microphone?
Maybe unmute all for a second.
She's not on mute, so
yeah, but somebody suggested just try to unmute all for a second.
Hold on a second.
Try again. No, we can't hear her. Sharon Saferstein, can you read what's on the screen? And then Ellen, you could read it together with her, but just hear somebody. I'm sorry.
All right. Can you hear me, Kayla?
Yes.
Okay, great. Miriam's prayer. Hashem, our God and God of our fathers and mothers, you revealed your power and kingship to us when you took us out of Egypt and redeemed us from the most terrible exile where we were drowning in the very depths of evil. Through our mothers in Egypt, you taught us faith in miracles. In your love and compassion, you sent us a teacher and a midwife, Miriam, who courageously shouldered the task of helping our people through their painful birth pangs, deliverance, and infancy. Like Miriam, may we know when to act and when to wait. Like her, may we have the energy to do your holy will at whatever moment we are called upon, without any hesitation. Master of the universe. Let our voices be clear and strong, but used in the hidden ways of Miriam. Let our songs be heard on high without disturbing the quiet ways we nurture here on earth. May we be single-minded in every task we do, and may we learn to use our power of speech for creating a world
of kindness.
Amen. And then
Amen.
thank you, Ellen, at the last. Thank you. Thank you both, Sharon and Ellen, and everybody else who was reading. Okay, Rivka Miriam, will you inspire us with another melody?
I think it's probably simpler not to.
Thank you very much. Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Okay, before we go on to our next video, which will be Miriam's tambourine dance, let's do that. I think we're going to do that. We just want to mention that what Mazal mentioned about the food of faith, the matzah, the shmur matzah. We have one for everybody, a big round shmur matzah for your Seder table. And it's going to be at the shul. So everybody be in touch with us and we'll make a pickup time that's convenient for you. And you'll have a beautiful big shmur matzah, which is really the food of faith, the real McCoy. Okay, Miriam's tambourine video. Let's, if you have a tambourine, just bring it along. If not, make believe, and let's get into the mood. Oh, there's our shmor matzah. Thank you. That's what it's gonna look like when you come and pick it up, all packaged wonderfully for you.
And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced all night long. And Miriam was a weaver of unique variety. The tapestry she wove was one which sang our history. With every thread and every strand she crafted her delight. A woman touched with spirit, she dances toward the light. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced all night long. As Miriam stood upon the shores and gazed across the sea, the wonder of this miracle she soon came to believe. Whoever thought the sea would part with an outstretched hand, and we would pass to freedom and march to the promised land. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced all night long. And Miriam the prophet took her timbrel in her hand, and all the women followed her just as she had planned. And Miriam raised her voice with song, she sang with praise and might. We've just lived through a miracle, we're going to dance tonight. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced all night long. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced all night long.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. That should get us in the mood of Pesach and women's spirit and our strength. And it says that in the merit of all the women in Egypt, the Jewish people left Egypt. And our tradition tells us that our generation, our rabbis have told us, the Rebbe told us, our generation now is a reincarnation of that generation. And it's really up to us to do that and to encourage and inspire our faith and trust. And it'll be through our merits, the women's merits, that we're going to be able to have Mashiach come as well and go out of this exile. Okay, we're going to turn the table over to Jessica Olenek.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi. So I was asked by Kayla to introduce our speaker this evening, Miss Natalie Edwards. I feel, as we're talking about positivity, that I try very hard to be a positive person. I try to put positivity out into the universe, try to find the silver lining in all situations, but sometimes we can't do that. Sometimes life gets in the way. And when that happens, I need a little help working through those troubles. And that's when my friend Natalie and my therapist, Natalie, same person, helps me out. She helps me to curve those negative vibes that are coming my way and to think about them more positively, to change the perspective, teaches me how to put my boundaries, how to help myself and help the people around me move in a better, healthier, more positive direction. I think that it's changed me as a person. I think it's helped me become a better mom. And I can truly say that I've learned so much from Natalie that I'm so glad that she's here with us tonight, that you all can learn from her, because she's been with us for quite some time with our family. And I can say I don't know where we would be today without her. So with that being said,
Natalie.
Stop it, Rachel. Here's Miss Natalie.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Glad I am. Thank you so much. That was way too kind. I really appreciate you saying all of that, Jessica. And thank you for including me in this evening. And I really, like I said, I just really appreciate you thinking of me. And those were very kind words. My hope is that this evening that all of you that are listening can leave feeling a little more relaxed, a little possibly, hopefully more optimistic and excited about what the next year is going to bring. And so hopefully as we kind of explore the positivity bias, you can all feel a little bit more optimistic and positive when we're done with this few minutes here that I'm going to be talking. So as we look back on this past year, it's been quite a year. I think for all of us, it's been a particularly stressful, unusually stressful year. I think most of us can say, but things are starting to get a little bit better. There's some more optimistic news out there, and we're starting to kind of feel a little bit better about what the future is going to bring for us. So as we're doing, or as we're kind of taking that in, it's a good time to look back and reflect on the past year and do a little bit of self-reflection. So some questions that you might want to ask yourself as we're going through this. What did you learn about yourself that, or what strengths did you learn about yourself that you can build upon in this next year? So thinking about that, a lot of us had to challenge ourselves to do things in different ways and get out of our comfort zone. And we kind of have to do that pretty much every year of life, but this year was, unique in that way. So how can we build upon some of those strengths? What are some stress and worries that might have enslaved you over this past year? And for some of us, maybe it's not just this past year, it's been longer than just this past year, but what are some of those stresses and worries that maybe have enslaved you? How can you make this next year, different than any other? And we'll talk more about that. What would this next year look like if you could be free from the constraints that stress, worry, and anxiety have on your life? I'm just kind of thinking about that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the positivity bias. We're going to actually talk a lot about that. But first, we're going to go over a little bit about what happens to our brains whenever we're stressed and anxious, and how the positivity bias kind of ties into that. And then I'm going to walk you through an approach to handling some stress and anxiety. Now, I think that there was a worksheet that was sent out.
It was sent out at everybody's email. Everybody should have gotten it. They can refer to that, and in a few minutes we could share the screen on that as well.
Okay, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So there's a worksheet that we'll go through in a little bit. If you didn't get the worksheet, we can, we'll share the screen. And then also if you just grab a piece of paper, you can jot this down, jot some thoughts down as we go through. So the worksheet's really just to kind of have for your reference, but a pen and paper will do the trick as well. So we're going to work through that together here in a little bit. So first let's talk about, oh, there we go. There's the worksheet. Okay, so first let's talk a little bit about what anxiety and stress does to your brain. So there's a part of your brain that Dr. Dan Spiegel, he's a neurologist and a psychologist, and he refers to it as SAM. So that is that stands for this scan, alert, and motivate part of your brain. And so it's helpful just to kind of think of it as SAM. So if you think of Sam, Sam is like this over anxious, well-meaning friend that tries to alert you when things go wrong. So Sam's job, that scan, alert, motivate part of your brain, that part of your brain's job is to keep you safe. So it's kind of also in that same part of your brain is that fight, flight, or freeze. So we hear a lot about that fight, flight, or freeze. That would be that same alert system. But fight, flight, or freeze is when you're when that alert system is triggered so much that you start to have almost a panic response. But even before that panic response, we start to get those signals of, that SAM response that says, okay, pay attention, something might be wrong, we're on high alert right now. And so that part of your brain is where it can be day-to-day anxiety can trigger that, or it can be something that's more like a level 10 stressor. But either way, you can kind of feel what that does to how it affects your mind and then how it sort of ties your body into that. And I think most of us know what that process feels like when our mind and our body are kind of working in tandem to kind of create that anxiety loop. And it's not a very pleasant experience, but we all have kind of felt that. Sometimes we have trouble sleeping, sometimes stomach problems, or our head hurts, but you can kind of feel what happens when that alert system sort of triggers thoughts, which then triggers that physical response, and it sort of has that that cycle. So one of the frustrating things, and this is an important thing when we're talking about the positivity bias, trying to use the positivity bias, but one of the frustrating things about the way anxiety affects our brains is that it actually makes that our thoughts a little bit different. So I'm sure this is no shock to you that when you're anxious or stressed or worried, you think a little bit differently than when you're calm or, just kind of neutral. And so that anxiety response actually heightens something that's called a negativity bias. So when we talk about the positivity bias, it's actually an attempt to offset what is our natural tendency for a negativity bias. So our negativity bias is what happens even when we're not stressed. Part of our just kind of built-in wiring, just to kind of keep us safe, really, is to notice negative things more than positive things. So that can be frustrating. Because I think we all kind of know what that can feel like when we remember bad things that happen to us more so than the positive things. And so whenever we're anxious or stressed, what they found is that negativity bias actually gets heightened and stronger. So we are more likely to remember negative things, and we're also more likely to think negative thoughts. And also, whenever we're thinking about what could happen in the future, we're more likely to think about a negative outcome. So that, like I said, that can happen anytime, but the more anxious we are and the more stressed we are, the more likely we are to kind of engage that negativity bias. So now this is kind of where that positivity bias can come in. Whenever we're processing what our trigger is or what our stressor is, it helps if we can take some control over what our thoughts are about the situation. So we can't necessarily control everything about the trigger or the stressor in the situation, but we do have power. And a lot of the power has to do with how we think about the situation. So the Rebbe actually talked about training your brain to have a positivity bias in order to look at the world in a more positive and actually a more accurate light. So when we think about the fact that the negativity bias is something that we're doing where we're kind of collecting all of the bad things that have happened to us, all of the, not even just the real things that have happened, but the things that could happen. And so we kind of are left with this really inaccurate version of what life looks like. And so if we try to purposely train our brains to have a positivity bias, we're actually having a more accurate view of what the world is, because we're not filtering out all of the positive things. We're actually purposely noticing them. And in reality, there are more positive things. So this helps to improve your mood on any day, obviously, if you're purposely noticing the positive things, but it's especially useful when you're feeling stressed or anxious. And it's because the negativity bias is at its worst during those times. And then also because using the positivity bias to help reframe those thoughts will actually help you to feel better. So it's a great time to practice using that. Okay, so let's walk through this together. If you have the worksheet, go ahead and get that out. And if not, then we can just I'll walk you through what's on there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you how we can use a positivity bias to offset our natural tendency to have a negativity bias in a scenario where maybe you're stressed or worried about something. So in
You want
order
me to post that again? Should we put it back on the screen
yeah, that's fine. You can do that.
for a little bit, and then people can see in the corner?
Yeah, that way
Okay.
people can see, and if
Okay.
they want to write down, yeah, that sounds good. Because you can hear me while that's on the screen, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Okay, so the first thing and this will work if you really you won't have to share what this is. So, don't worry about that. But the first thing I want you to do is to identify a situation that might be causing you to experience some anxiety or stress. So it will, the more, I guess, realistic or the more real time that the situation is, the more helpful this will be, because you can actually work through it. And then that'll help you to feel better about it. But if you can't think of something going on right now, you can think of something that you've already kind of worked through. That's fine. And it doesn't have to be what I say to my clients, like it doesn't have to be like a level 10. It could just be like a level 1 or 2 stressor. But if you have something on your mind, go ahead and write it down. I'll give you just a minute to do that. Okay, so what we're going to do with this is just sort of walk through what you might be able to do, or how you might be able to think in a healthier way, even on your own with this. So we're just going to kind of walk this through, and I'm going to talk to you about it the way that you could really talk to yourself as you're working through something like this. So to give you an example of how you can apply this thought process to any situation. So when you have something that's stressing you out, the first thing is the step that we just did. Identify, what is it? What is it that's actually stressing me out right now? And I know that seems simple, but a lot of times it's sort of this nagging thing that we don't even really give ourselves a chance to stop and think about. And so just that very first step that you just did in writing it down is a really big step. They call that name it to tame it. It's just naming, what is it that's actually stressing me out? So right there's just, a simple step, but a very important step. The next thing is to remember what you've already learned. Remember the coping skills that you know that you already have, those things that you do to take care of yourself whenever you're not feeling so good. And a lot of times what happens is when we're stressed or anxious, we don't feel like doing those things. So for instance, if calling a friend is something that helps you to cope, or going for a walk, or, working out, or reading or writing. When you're anxious, a lot of times, especially if you're kind of in that freeze mode, you don't really want to do anything. And so thinking consciously, okay, what are the things that I know help me to feel better in this situation or in any situation where I don't feel good? So write down a couple of those. What are your go-to kind of coping skills? And, for some people, it's more introverted things like journaling, going for a walk, things like that. And then for other people, it's more extroverted things like talking to a friend or talking to their counselor, or, creating some sort of art or something that's more of an expressive type of coping skill. And if you'd like, you can go ahead and share some of your favorites in the chat, or if there's one that you think, that other people might be able to benefit from. It's always good to see what other people are doing. So if you want to go ahead and share a couple of those. And again, that seems like an obvious step, but none of this is really obvious when you're anxious, because our minds just don't quite work as sharply as they do when we're calm, whenever we're stressed or worried. Okay. So the next thing is action steps. Sometimes the worry and anxiety can just be so overwhelming that we cannot see any possible solutions. We don't see that there's anything we can do to fix the problem or have an impact on the problem, or we just feel like we don't even know where to start. And so it helps to list specifically what are some things that you can do to affect the outcome of the situation. So an example would be, a lot of times my clients, and probably really anybody in life, will have worries about their health, and especially with Google, that doesn't help. We Google stuff and we think the worst, but then we worry about it, but then we don't actually take the step to maybe call the doctor and see what's going on, or, do that more concrete step to have an impact on the outcome. So writing that down and making that commitment that these are the steps that I'm going to take that have to do with that will have an actual impact on the outcome of the situation, because there's usually a lot of parts of the situation we do not have power over. So this is just pulling out those pieces that you actually have some power over. It's really important to separate those, because it's kind of all in this clump in our minds. And so go ahead and take a minute and just write down for your particular situation, if there's anything that you can do about it. If you're worried about something to do with like something to do with work, or some tasks that need to be complete, you're feeling overwhelmed, it's like, okay, is there something I can do to actually make this feel better? Can I start doing this today? And if not, then we write those down. We say, this starts tomorrow. Can't do anything about it right now anyways. Okay. So once you've kind of pulled these things out, so you reminded yourself, well, you noticed what you're upset about in the first place. That's an important step. You reminded yourself, what do you do when you're upset? How do you take care of yourself? You've pulled out some specific things that you can do. There's, that SAM alert system's telling you, hey, pay attention, do something. And sometimes it's like, oh yeah, I got to make that phone call, or I have to pay that bill, or I have to call that doctor. And so we pull those things out. And a lot of times just pulling those things out makes us feel a lot better. So then the next thing, this is where that positivity bias comes in. So our natural tendency is that SAM alert system has sort of like this big picture, like a big binder, and all of the possible negative things that's ever happened are in that binder. And so our brain says, remember when this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened. And not just the things that have happened to us, things that have happened to anybody else, anything we saw in the news, anything that we might have heard, while we were in the waiting room of, the airport or whatever, any possible negative headline, anything is that has to do with our worry is going to come, and we're just, going to link all of those things. So now we got to take that and say, okay, I have to purposely train my brain to think, what are the possible positive outcomes of this situation? Because the reality is there are a lot of them. Our brains just don't collect those as much. So sometimes you have to get creative. Sometimes you have to really think, okay, well, I don't know any news headlines about how this ended positively, but I'm pretty sure that it has. So writing those down. And now I put like the possible positives because every situation is different. Sometimes there's like infinite amount of possible positive situations. And sometimes it's like, okay, well, this is a pretty straightforward, this would be a successful outcome here. But it helps to get creative and think, okay, well, a positive outcome could be that I learn that I have strengths that I didn't know that I had. A positive outcome is that I get through this and I feel more empowered to be able to get through the next challenge. So sometimes it can be things like that. It just kind of depends on what your stressor is. I could say, well, a positive outcome is I'm going to call a friend and talk to them about this thing that's been stressing me out. And that means I get to talk to my friend. I haven't talked to her in a long time. And I'll hopefully, feel better. Okay, so I'm going to stop talking for a minute to give you a chance to kind of catch up on that. And it's hard to think when somebody's talking, so I'll try to stop talking so you can think about some of the positive outcomes. I was reading through some of the things that people do to lessen anxiety. I see FaceTiming a grandchild. That's a good one. That's, children can be so carefree and it can just be so refreshing. And to be around people that love you, and even being able to FaceTime is such a nice blessing to be able to do that. And staying away from the news, yes. Okay, so the next step, this one is, again, with the positivity bias, we're going to be training our brains to work in a different way than what comes automatic when we're stressed. So just like when we are thinking of those possible positive outcomes, we want to try to think about what's the evidence that supports that this could be positive. Because again, Sam has that binder and it's like, okay, here's all the evidence that's going to show that this could be bad. And some of that evidence is, well, look, this one time, this one thing was bad. It's not exactly like this, but something bad happened one time. And so we have to look and kind of have this separate binder that says, but look at all the evidence that this could be good. And so one of the things is in this next line that says, write an example of a time that you were worried or stressed that had a successful outcome. And this is something that it's so interesting to me how the brain works, because we give so much energy to something that we're worried about. And then most of the time, it works out okay. It's not nearly as bad as what we had pictured in our head that it was going to be. In fact, a lot of times, it's just like not even noticeable. Nothing notable happens at all. And so instead of having this big celebration that everything worked out okay, we just kind of say, okay, on to the next worry. We just replace it with something else. We don't even acknowledge that everything worked out okay. Now, some of you may, because you may be already using some of these strategies, and you may have found somewhere throughout the years that works to make sure to notice when things work out well. But a lot of us, and myself included, struggle to notice or even pay attention when something has worked out okay, because it doesn't draw our attention as much. Again, with that kind of survival, pay attention to the negative part of our brains. So it helps to look back and say, okay, remember this one time I was freaking out, I was so stressed, and everything worked out okay. I got through it. I had, like, remember this job interview, or remember that time that me and a friend we had a misunderstanding and I thought they were so mad at me, and it was fine. And it's sometimes hard to remember specifics, again, because we just sort of are like, okay, that wasn't so bad, and then we just move on. But it does help to try to take an inventory. And then also, if you're someone who likes to journal, starting sort of a running tally of the times where you know that your stress level about a situation did not match how it actually turned out, because most of the time it doesn't. Now that one's a little bit longer to share, but if anybody has an example that they'd like to share, feel free, because again, these are ones that sometimes are hard to remember in our own lives, and it helps to hear what other people have to say. So the last one, this is to identify a mantra. This one, I also want to tie it to your positive outcome. So I'll let you know what I mean here in a minute. But first and foremost, identify a mantra that will help you to remember to focus on the positive outcomes of the situation and let go of your worry. So the mantra is going to be something, it could be something that you already use. You know, you might have a few of your go-tos that when you're stressed or worried, they help you to feel better. And maybe after tonight, you'll start to notice that you have some new ones that might focus more on the thinking positive. It can be simple, though. It doesn't have to be something that's, you know, quotable that anyone else would get, but something that helps to remind you about the positive. Oh, somebody said adult coloring books. That's a good one. So a mantra I heard the other day that I thought was good is no amount of, I'll probably mess it up, but I'm gonna try. No amount of guilt can change the past, and no amount of anxiety can change the future. And a lot of times, you know, I liked that because I thought a lot of times we just focus so much on if we're not stressed about what's gonna happen, that negativity bias kind of makes us think about, well, what all these bad things that did happen, or kind of feeling bad about the past. And I like that one. So that one's something that I could use if I'm feeling anxious. But there's a lot of them out there about anxiety. And the reality is it is wasted energy. So what you can do with your mantra is write it down. It can change. Your mantra could be specific to the situation. You know, it could be something that's like, okay, this is This is helping me with this particular situation. Oh, here's one. Only way out is through. I just need to keep, whoop, the chat just, I just need to keep going till it's over. Yeah, I like that. And the thing is, the reason for the mantra, or the reason why I've included it in this and why it's so important to identify it, is because, again, the way the brain works when you're anxious, we have all of these great tools and all of these great thoughts that we can think when we're having a good time, when we're feeling good. We can be so positive, and we can have all of these wonderful, empowering quotes that, you know, we remember. But then when you're anxious, your brain starts to really act a lot differently. And a lot of those thoughts are kind of like nowhere to be found. And it can be frustrating. And I hear a lot of my clients, they'll say, like, I knew exactly what to do, but then in the moment, it's like everything was gone. And the reason for that is because your brain actually does change when you're anxious, so that a lot of those problem solving and the higher level thinking and the reasoning starts to kind of go by the wayside, so that you can be in a more automatic process. So working through this helps to kind of re-engage that and open it up. It's like, oh yeah, that's my mantra. That's the thing that I go to. And so that's why that's so important, because you have these wonderful mantras, but you have to remember to actually use them when you need them. And I know in my own life, that's sometimes hard to do. Now the mantra is something that you're going to, this last step, when you read that mantra, what you want to do is you want to actually visualize a positive outcome. So you're going to those possible positive outcomes, and you want to actually visualize a positive outcome. So that way, whenever you say your mantra, you're also visualizing that positive outcome. And the thing is, what we don't realize is we're doing this already. So if you kind of picture this is like a road, and you have these two, it's sort of a Y in the road. And so the one path is this positivity bias path, where we have this positive train of thought, the positive mantra, and the positive visualization. But the other path is that negativity bias path. We're doing that without meaning to. We're already visualizing a negative outcome when we're stressed and anxious. We're already kind of saying negative mantras like, it'll never work, everything always goes bad, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not strong enough, or I always make mistakes, or you know what yours are. I don't want to give you any ideas, but we're already doing that to ourselves. And so this is just making a conscious effort to take that energy and put it down that positive path. And not only do you feel better, but the outcome actually has a better chance of being positive. Because in this path, you're doing something to make the situation better. You're changing your mood, which then has an effect on your environment. And it can have, depending on what the situation is, it can be very powerful in changing the outcome. So does anybody, let me look through the chats and see if there's any. For some reason, when I try to scroll on the chats, it goes really fast. Oh, crochet. Oh, diverting energy to creative projects. I like that. And go-to sentences on index cards. That's good. Oh, that's Jessica's. Yes, that's Star Student. All of them are good. It's for some reason when I scroll, it goes fast. So for some, I'm kind of not able to read the whole thing. And then asking a friend. So it's also really important to practice this. This is something that, like I said, we kind of have this automatic path. Our brain's been doing it for years and years and years. And so if you kind of picture that automatic negative path is very deep And it's always going to be there as an option. And so we have to make that other path just as deep and just as automatic. And that takes a lot of practice. And it's important not to be hard on yourself. It's important if you find yourself in the middle of that path and the negativity cycle, just adjust, just pivot. Don't beat yourself up over it. Don't feel bad about it. That's what we call feeling bad about feeling bad. And that is just another negative feedback loop that we don't need to be in. So that's it for my part of the night. Feel free to, if you have any questions or if there's anything you want clarified about this, my contact information is at the bottom of the form, yeah, right there. So feel free to email me or call. And you know, a lot of this is also cognitive behavioral therapy, and so you know, I use a lot of this in counseling. But you know, these are things that you can use in any situation in your life. So it doesn't have to be something that you're going to counseling for. So thank you so much. I really appreciate
you. Thank you very much. Always good to recharge our batteries in those areas. We all need that for sure.
Ella,
yes.
Are we going to do any small, short exercise? I thought that's what we talk.
Well, through the through the chats, Natalie read the chats.
Let's ask her if we have like 5 or 6 minutes. If she think for what she didn't cover and the comments she got, if we can do.
Let's see here.
Something short to the point, something that we can take and use it from time to time.
Well,
the mantras was good. The mantras are good pointers.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Something. I think that I'm not 100% sure exactly what you're asking for, but I can a short and to the point exercise that you can take with you. As far as with anxiety and stress, I think something that might be helpful that we didn't cover is talking about some of the deep breathing or the calming techniques that you could use. And it would be a good idea to do that even before you sit down and even address any of this. Because a lot of times what happens when you're anxious, so that first thing is identifying something that might be causing you to experience anxiety. Sometimes there's a tendency to want to avoid. So if you think fight, flight, or freeze, sometimes that flight will be to avoid thinking about it altogether. And so in order to have a positivity bias, you have to be able to think about the situation without getting overwhelmed. And so sometimes we don't even want to think about it. So we use that avoidance, and the anxiety is still there. It just kind of comes out in ways like not being able to sleep or having headaches or things, because it's just so overwhelming that we can't even really think about it in order to process it. So the worksheet is something where you're processing it. But if you find that even just starting the worksheet is something that you kind of even feel that physical reaction, it can be helpful to use some calming strategies. So we could do some of those.
Yeah, okay. Very appropriate after as the evening developed from the idea and the Jewish thought and the teaching of the Rebbe and Miriam and the mantra and the positive attitude, and then you brought it to like day-to-day kind of help, counseling. I think to do something actually in a moment.
Perfect. Yeah. And then everybody can participate at home, and hopefully, you know, if you're feeling stressed, hopefully it helps. I mean, it will help. And, you know, hopefully you can remember this too. So this is sort of like the what to do before you even start thinking about it.
Or after
Okay.
a day, very busy day of making program and coordinating so many things.
Yes, yes.
Kayla and me not really slept last night, so something like that can help.
Yes.
Right, Kayla? That's okay. We can share some of our shortcomings, some of the labor for the program. Always love, always care, but that's part of,
Yep.
dealing with.
Okay. All right. So when we think about deep breathing, one of the things that a lot of times we do is we just sort of think we're deep breathing when we're not. And so I'm going to walk you through just a quick breathing strategy that's really helpful. You can do this, and it's really important to focus on your breathing any time throughout the day, because a lot of times if you're carrying around a lot of different worries and anxieties, it starts to chip away at the way your mind and body are jiving together, and you don't realize it, but it is affecting your breathing. It's affecting your whole body chemistry. And so whenever you do a deep breathing exercise, you can kind of realize just how stressed you actually are, because it feels pretty good to take the deep breath. And so in order for it to be the kind of breath that's going to send a signal of calm to your brain, it has to be a certain type. So there's different ones, but here's one that works really well. So take your hands and put them on your stomach. And so you're going to just kind of let, one or two, both hands, whatever you feel comfortable with, just sit on your stomach. And then you're going to breathe in through your nose. And then you're going to, I'll talk you through it, and then we'll take a moment to do it. So you're going to breathe in through your nose. And then as you're doing that, you're going to sort of picture that there's a balloon inside of your stomach. And as you're doing that, that balloon is inflating. So you want to feel your hand go up when the balloon inflates and down when the balloon deflates. And so that's what they call a deep belly breath. Now, a lot of times when we say take a deep breath, it's more of a chest breath. We want this to be a nice, deep belly breath. And that will send chemicals of calm to your brain. And so you don't even have to think anything. It just kind of does it. So, okay. So we're going to take a minute.
Two hands should be on the stomach.
Yep. So your hands should be on your stomach. And then you're going to go in through your nose. And then out through your mouth. Again. So when you practice that, what you want to do is you want to challenge yourself to see if you can get like 100% of your breath in that balloon. And so it's passing through. And so you're kind of just bypassing the chest that's where the chest breaths are going to actually create more of an anxiety response. So when we say take a deep breath and then we take a chest breath, we're actually making it worse. So you take that nice deep belly breath. And
Is
then
it better if you're breathing through the nose or the mouth?
Yeah.
Can you say something?
In through the nose and then out through the mouth is kind of the simplest way to get that release and to make sure that you're getting that nice deep, deep breath. And it helps to even make a sound as you let it come out through your mouth. Sometimes we'll catch ourselves sighing throughout the day and we notice like, oh, I needed a deep breath. So this is sort of a way to do that. And what it does is it helps to send those signals of calm, and then it re-engages your brain so that you can use that whole brain and think more clearly. Another strategy that's real quick to use when you're feeling, and use this even if you're not feeling it, because sometimes you don't, like I said, you don't know how stressed you are until you do these. So just do these every day, because I think you probably all have enough stress. You can do this every day. Another one is to do a hand massage. So you're kind of like, you're massaging your palm of your hand with the other hand. And when you do this, you just kind of take your time to go through each knuckle. And, you don't rush through it. I'm kind of rushing more than what I would if I was really doing it. So you just kind of take your time, and you can even feel how you have that tension in your hands. And you think if that's how much tension you have in your hands, imagine how much tension's in the rest of your body. But this is a great chance to just release a lot of that.
Good ideas.
Yeah. So before you sit down and have a talk with yourself, it helps to say prayer and do these things and get your head in that right space. And kind of picture, if you picture that fork in the road and the one side is the negative path, and then the other side is that more positive path. When you're doing the deep breathing and you're doing the hand massage and you're just centering yourself, kind of picture that path of positivity sort of like opening up. Picture like the sun shining on it, and it's opening up and it's ready for you to explore that. This helps to kind of get that process started. So hopefully that's something that,
Yeah,
like I said, you can do this on your own, or you can do it with a friend, and walk through these.
Great. Something to just get our worry away from us. And we're going to have Julie Zorn join us, give us the spirit of Am Yisrael Chai in a minute. But that reminds me of the story of the guy who, Sam, he worries all the time. He doesn't stop worrying. And his friend tells him, you're worrying way too much. You know, you should just get somebody to pay somebody to worry for you already. Like, it's too much. He says, good idea, good idea. So he goes and he pays somebody to worry for him. And he's like, how much should I pay you? He says, $10,000, $10,000 each time you come to me. Okay, no problem. Comes back to his friend. He says, I'm worry free. I'm worry free. He says, what happened? How much do you have to pay for it? What happened? He says, $10,000 and all my worries on him. He says, how are you going to pay that? He says, not my worry. So hopefully we can really get ourselves with all of our worries, get rid of all our worries through positive thinking, through praying, through massaging, through all these real ways that we can do that. And with that, we'll end with Am Yisrael Chai, which means the Jewish people still are alive.
And 2 weeks before Passover, we should remind ourselves that before we too busy with Passover, we can take some of the technique and the mantra and use it.
Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. 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 All Avinu Chai, all Avinu Chai. All Avinu, all Avinu, all Avinu Chai. All Avinu Chai, all Avinu Chai. All Avinu, all Avinu, all Avinu. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. All Avinu Chai, all Avinu Chai. All Avinu, all Avinu, all Avinu Chai. All Avinu Chai, all Avinu Chai. All Avinu, all Avinu.
Wonderful. That really gave us a lot of boost and good spirit. Thank you so much for everyone for joining, for participating, for helping to plan, for being a part of it. The official program is over.
No, not over, Kayla. I would like to thank Kayla.
They can stay on if they want.
Yeah, I would like to thank very, very much Kayla, between all running and rushing and visiting and walking, that you make enough time to work on that. And I want to thank so much Rabbi Moshe and Musi, the young couple that they helping so much and working so hard. Absolutely, you are amazing about many things, but the technology and all the equipment that we need now, we need you very much every step. And I really appreciate all the coordination, the teamwork that we did together. Thank you, lady. Thank you for joining us. It was wonderful to see you all. We miss you in person. And I promise next year, God willing, we're going to do something nice together in person. Hopefully, we can dance and make tambourine. What do you think, Kayla? Good plan for next Pre-Passover.
Okay, good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Good night. Thank you.